Welcome to Bullets and Milk, our Westworld after show here on that hashtag show. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you see every episode that we do here and keep up to date with all the information and keep the conversation going on Twitter using the hashtag Bullets and Milk at that hashtag show. So, I'm Daniel Jerome, and to my right is the lovely Myverick. And to Maverick's right is Joe. So you're
getting so good at that. Like, we've got it down.
He's salty. Right? He's salty because I was right about everything.
Salty. I hate Joe right now. He was right on so much stuff, but we'll get into exactly what you were right about before we do that.
We'll hear about it.
Can I have a nickname and be called the Westworld Prophet?
Oh, no.
Of Westworld?
I wore this shirt to say Joe broke the record. That's why I'm wearing the record. I'm wearing the record because Joe
actually,
broke the record
to be 100% real with you, it was all dumb luck. Like, I think I threw a bunch of theories out there, and a bunch of them just stuck, and there was like,
you did throw so many. I wish if we could if we could have just had like a supercut of how many theories you
That's gonna be an episode of all these dumb theories that I came up with, and people were like, people that are watching must have been like, what an idiot that guy is. They're like, oh.
I guess he's all right now.
I was that one.
Yeah.
You would always shoot me down.
I did. Because I just didn't, like, I'm hoping that other people felt the same as me. Like, by the time it was at the end, I was like, dang, I can't believe it was that simple. Right? It was like breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that was the thing. But before we go into it and congratulate Joe, let's go to the clip.
Since I was a child, I've always loved a good story. Stories help us become the people we dreamed of being. Lies that told a deeper truth.
Woo! I was right. I was right.
Luckily, it's the last episode.
We're going to have to hear about it for a whole year. You know that,
That's
right?
insane. I cannot believe that it's not going to come out to
just in your lives normally now, because we're in a group chat together, I'm just going to start throwing theories about everything out there.
We have a whole over a year of Joe
here it
now.
comes. It's going to be like the worst things ever. Well, you know,
6 months from now, you know what? I think season 2 is going to be.
There was a clip where a bird flew over Westbound.
I have a theory while you're doing all these different workouts. Just do all these.
You know, there was a clip where the bird flew westbound. That means blah, 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 blah. Oh, God. It's going to be horrible stuff like that. All from Joe. That's all we're going to get.
Oh,
the episode was really good. I think it lived. Did it? Let me ask. Did it live up to your guys' hype? Like your expectation? It was an hour and a half, which was long, but it didn't seem like.
It didn't. I didn't.
And I don't recommend this. So driving here to meet up with you guys, I was watching part of it while I was driving. Like, it was the most dangerous thing.
Wow.
Because I knew when I got here, I didn't want to hear it because I was the last one to get here about how late I was.
Yeah.
And how you were still watching.
Yeah, exactly. And you were still late. That was the worst part. You were still late.
I thought, as I was watching it, I thought, crap, like they were kind of, I like the fact that it wasn't like, answer. But it was like, it kind of
and
like.
it didn't seem forced.
Right. And it was like, it would draw you in, and then it kind of would give you a little bit of like, oh, but maybe this isn't the answer. And so I enjoyed that because then I wasn't like just getting like fully satisfied with all my answers immediately. It still entertained me the way that I thought it should have.
I agree. But I'll have a question that I thought about, and I was like, I know a lot of people are going to leave the show because of it, which on Facebook and everything, a lot of people are. When you have a theory that you've been running with, and the theory comes true, is it kind of like, oh, well, because I can figure that out, I really don't care for the show anymore?
No.
Because a lot of people were saying that, and I was like, I don't get that. That's the fun.
I mean, listen, the highest grossing movies of all time are these Marvel movies. I just say of all time, but they make so much money. But I know everything that's going to happen because they're so predictable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I like shows like this where it makes you think, because not all the theories that we've put out there have been right. And I think that it's smart. Like Myverick brought up a great point when we were talking before this even started, was that there's so many biblical like references that are happening in Westworld. Not only that, but there's also, it's pulled from like Lost.
Oh yeah.
A lot of stuff from Myverick. You better watch that. There's pulling a lot of stuff from there, and just this is a show that makes you think. And the fucking acting is on point, mother. It's on point.
Oh yeah, man. The acting is amazing.
Down to the, okay, so let's just can we let's get into the show.
Okay, all right.
One of the biggest things was we already talked about CGI and how amazing you look back and Anthony Hopkins is a young man walking by that
he looks
blows
like
my
the
mind.
Penguin from Gotham to me, like the young version.
Really?
It looks like the Penguin from Gotham to me. Yeah.
And the older one or
the young one. He looks like the Penguin from Gotham. Dan, you know what I'm talking about.
Daniel DeVito?
No. It's from the show
Gotham.
Gotham.
Oh, I was
this
weird.
young dude that's playing the Penguin.
Yeah, the guy from Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right? I'm gonna look him up while you're talking right now.
The point was, so when you see Dolores and Arnold, not Bernard, first creating her and waking her up, I was so blown away with how she looked, like her body, and how it. Oh yeah. That
wow.
Okay, looking at Robin Taylor, I can see that.
Young Hopkins looks like Robin Taylor. Robin Taylor looks like young Hopkins. Interesting.
So, yes, good job, good call on that. I was talking about Dolores. I think that they did an amazing job with showing her as her first creation, her first body.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Open up and
the
then it's like
the
you
first
see
gen.
that.
Yeah.
That was great. That was really
it
good.
was almost eerie, but it was so creative and just
Yeah, the CG in this show is amazing. And it blends so well with practical effects they use. I didn't know this. Actually, I learned this from our producer, Josh. I think we may have talked about it on the first episode, that a quarter of the budget for the whole show was spent on the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But Josh made a great point when we were talking about this. He said that a lot of that was due to for set builds and stuff, though, that they would just use.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, that makes tons of sense because it's very cinematic. But again, to your point, Maverick, the acting and the CG and everything, it just really comes together on this.
Oh man! Besides coming together, it shows up and it shows out in every moment. Like they take meticulous care to make sure that everything that you see is what they want you to see. And it's worth it. It's worth it. That time that they took for the show to give us each bit, every little breadcrumb, as we said earlier, it all pays through. It all pays through. The acting goes it goes hand in hand with it also, because I mean, honestly, everyone on this episode deserves a freaking Emmy.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they used most of all the characters we've come to be familiar with. I mean, there's a couple that aren't in there, and I'm sure you'll talk about it. But they do a really good job at tying the storylines kind of together, and filling it out. I think the brilliance of this show is that because they tried to do a good job in this episode of telling you which timeline kind of happens where. It's still a little murky, but you get a better idea, a better picture of it. And man, I will say this right now, Ed Harris blew me away in this episode. He was so good. His portrayal of the Man in Black, and when he's telling the story about William, oh my gosh. It was, I mean, granted, a lot of us saw it coming.
Yeah, true.
But it paid off. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm this guy. They tell you the whole backstory of how he became this guy. And when he gets back to the town, when William's a little older, gets back to the town, he looks more pale. He looked almost like not like a zombie, but more like, you know what it reminded? No, it reminded me a little bit of like Star Wars, the prequels, where Anakin Skywalker's kind of like young and clean cut, and he starts going to the dark side. It reminded me very much of that.
Yeah, it was the whole dark circles and the yellow eyes.
And I liked how, again, without it just constantly revealing that the Man in Black was the Man in Black, like it kept leaving you, like it would just tease you a little bit, like, maybe he's not. But then some of the key factors where he tells the one of the hosts that he finds out at the campsite, and he goes, you pick up that guy.
Well, for a split second there, when he was telling, he was like, I knew a guy named William Malone. I thought, I was like, oh, it's Logan.
I did too.
For a quick second.
But then I also thought, I was like, well, dang, but like Logan's, I mean, this was me like in acting wise. I was like, Logan's features are really dark.
Sure.
Right. But he goes, his first comment to give it away was, he says the same thing that we hear him talk about with Teddy in the first episode, and says, I'll even give you the first straw. And Teddy shoots him.
Great
and
callback to episode 1.
Yeah, then William uses that same reference to the host in the camp.
Yep, that's right.
And so
once that started to happen, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna give us these breadcrumbs the whole way until he actually does the reveal, and it was beautiful. Like you said, like that line came up, and I was like, oh, I took note of it real quick, and I was like, there it goes. And then when they showed the knife again.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, all right, great. You guys are giving us this for a reason. I get it. I like it. And then when he starts doing the story, you see him riding on the horse, and you see the picture of Juliet again. I was like, okay, I get this. And then finally, when he goes to pick up the hat, and I was like, oh, my nail in the coffin. Like, thank you guys for not being a-holes and just not like. Thank you for taking us through that moment instead of just going. Oh, well, let me tell you about William. That's me. Like, just like, you're like, what?
I mean, all the iconic features that Ed Harris portrayed in The Man in Black, we saw bits and pieces how we got there in this episode. One thing that I really enjoyed, too, was that quite literally, like, when everyone told him the maze wasn't meant for him, it wasn't meant for him. It was totally somebody else's journey. But there's so many lines that mean so much in this show. Like you said, Maverick, like the first line where he's like, "I'll let you take the first shot." That means a lot, obviously, because we get to see that callback here. But also, like, just the maze isn't meant for you, or the one where Dolores would always, or violent
These violent delights.
The violent delights have violent.
Violent ends.
Right.
And then there's also one that Dolores kept saying too. But like all of these lines echo so throughout this whole season that I was not let down. I thought this was great.
I'll say this, like at the very beginning, I had to write it all down because it was like speaking about the lines in dialogue where Dolores starts off, and it's the way she started off a few times before, where it's I am in a dream. I don't know where it began or whose dream it is. I know only that I slept for a long time. Your voice is the first thing I remember, and now I finally understand what you were trying to tell me. The thing I wanted you... The thing you wanted since that very first day. And it was like, oh my God. And then when we get to the very end, that whole speech, that whole little bit of monologue makes so much more sense. Like before, it was just like, oh my gosh, I get it. She's talking to Arnold, and I get this, I get it. And then at the end, when you realize it was really like breadcrumbs left, not only by Arnold but by her for her.
Right.
That was
genius.
That
was the point I think that Arnold and then Ford again was trying to complete. Was for her to recognize, and what they Arnold and Ford were trying to induce was that she would recognize their voices as hers.
Yes,
that her voice that she hears all the time is hers, which is then creating consciousness.
Yes, that's genius, and that's true. Just like you said, when they pointed out the pyramid, it goes memory, improvisation, and then there was one last part. And he said that's when we realized it wasn't a pyramid, but instead, instead it became something where it was just more of a flat surface and circles and circles. Genius.
Yeah, it definitely. And well, I know it's funny too is how, again, that was another tie back to what Ford was describing to Bernard, saying that he drew out a pyramid, and at the top of the level where these hosts were hearing from a godlike creature, a godlike person.
Yeah, well, that brings it right back to the title, though, the Bicameral Man,
which was what I was going to ask you. What's it mean?
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it already way ahead of time. We've talked about it way before, but it refers to a popular psychological theory related to how a person thinks and acts. Bicameralism itself is the belief that the mind once had two separate cognitive parts, one that gave out the orders and the other that obeys the orders. So, and for humanity itself, there's a particular time, where they say we gained full consciousness as humans, according to science. And they say that's the moment where we actually figured out, okay, the voice that we're hearing in our own heads is actually us. It's not God, but it's actually us. And we started to make decisions and choices and things according to what our thoughts were, and not, oh, this is what God said and this is how it all works out. Which is interesting because in that case, which is something they're kind of getting to here, it's types and shadows and imagery of, I don't want to say it this harsh, but it's man coming to understand himself, and by doing so, killing God, or the idea and the belief of God by doing that.
So
that's the question.
Are you saying that this whole thing is more of an allegory of, like, man, because the show is machine versus man,
right?
Are you saying this is more of an allegory of man versus God?
There was at one point, Anthony Hopkins, when he was talking to Dolores and Bernard was in the room, that it did seem as though, like, there was, like, I kept thinking that there's very much so biblical references to it because it's talking about creation. And I think it's when he's describing the painting, and
Michelangelo.
And he kind of, like, does away with God, I'm pretty sure, in the painting, and he says it looks like a brain, meaning that, like, it's unlocking our brain. Does that sound right?
That's exactly where I was getting to. That's exactly it. Where he points out to him and he says there are things that were hidden away. For example, in this in Michelangelo's artist, is that the Sistine Chapel?
No.
Or what is that?
It's just
isn't it man and God? It's a creation.
It's the creation of Adam.
Yeah, right.
And
it's not,
Adam.
Okay.
God.
So he's sitting there with the heavenly host, the angels. They're around him, and he reaches out and touches his finger. But that whole imagery, the whole shape itself, looks like the human brain. And he points it out and says that truth of the matter is our level of creation, as far as where we see it, wasn't until we understood that we ourselves were gods in a way. And it's so. It's so blasphemous. I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's so blasphemous
yeah.
that automatically it was just like, ugh. But saying it from a writer's standpoint, we'll flow with it. It's essentially man coming into his own, realizing that he makes his decisions, and that as far as what there is concerning fate, man can change his fate according to his choices, and creating himself, also creating other things, blah, 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 yada, yada. But man becomes God. And that's what he was pointing out. But there's no divinity. There's
realistically,
is humanity.
With where we are, kind of like as a society, we're already creating new things all the time. Not just AI, but I know this is going off completely on a tangent of not being, but follow along. The breadcrumbs I'm leaving you guys. It's about we've come so far, and I think that we already are starting to create artificial life.
Yes.
Essentially, playing gods ourselves as humans now. I mean, is that right or wrong?
If we get up to this level of technology, then that question definitely will be asked.
We've created full-on animals out of cells, like snakes. You know what I mean? Like, probably even humans at this point.
Because that's just replicating something that's already happened. That's all that is.
But that's creating life.
Creating life in a way where it's like,
I guess babies are creating life.
See, there you go. That's what I was just going to point out. I was going to say we're replicating something that's already happened. Okay, so are we gods because we can reproduce? No.
But we can reproduce things that we're not supposed to reproduce. That's the thing.
But that's what I'm saying. If we get to the level of technology that they are on the show,
we're losing an audience. We're here to talk about Westworld.
I was going to say, let me bring it back. Let me tie it back, because this is something that I had a question about, was that Dolores now unlocks her mind, and realizing that she's solved the maze, and now is thinking on her own. She's realizing that no one else is speaking to her or programming her, because it's her own voice.
Yeah.
So you see that, but then to me, she walks out of the chapel into the retirement celebration, and shoots forward.
For 2 seconds, I thought you were going to say retirement home.
Oh, no, retirement celebration. And then shoots forward. But you also see how she walks up to Teddy, describes to him, like, everything's going to be okay. But
comforts him, yeah.
It's like, to me, And then, like, obviously you see, like, The Walking Dead coming through, and, like, there's all, now it's like you kind of see what season 2 is going to be about, and, like, it's this new narrative.
I did say that those dudes would be like the White Walkers from Game of Thrones, and that's pretty much what happened.
Joe said that.
I felt like this episode felt like so much like zombie-like, and just Attack of the People. But my thought is that Dolores is basically doing what Bernard did. I'm sorry, what Arnold told her to do. Like, he programmed her to be, which... Good call on some of our viewers saying that Dolores is Wyatt. That's revealed in this episode as well.
Actually, I'll find the name. I want to say that.
Will Wall or something like that?
Yeah. Will Wallace said it.
Rick Ross.
Also, I think we had a few people that actually mentioned, Dolores is Wyatt. Dolores is Wyatt. My gosh.
So the thing is that she did the exact same thing that Arnold told her to do. And so I just wonder, like, she's doing it again, and so it's almost like she was programmed yet again.
I don't necessarily think she did what Arnold told her to do. She did what Ford programmed her to do.
To Arnold? Remember?
Not to Arnold. I'm saying, yes.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is that, like, so then did Dolores really unlock anything? Did she solve anything, or is she just a host doing what a narrative told her?
I think Ford was the one that he was like, no, Arnold. Because Bernard at the end of the same movie, but at the end of the show, Bernard and Arnold are standing there. He's like, well, Arnold is still like coding him pretty much.
Right.
He's still making
you killed him, but he's still with these reveries is still contacting him.
But then he's like, well, that's not what happened. I'm the one that's putting that stuff in.
He said, because he clarifies. He says Arnold can't do it, but I'm finishing it.
Yeah.
And he said, and you have to, I'm sorry, Bernard, but I have to unleash more. He says, he didn't agree with him. He wasn't really on his side until Arnold's death.
Sure, but he was eventually on his side.
Yeah, he said, I understood now what Arnold was saying. But the point is, do you think that Dolores then really did unlock herself, or is now? But you also see that she's also in another. She's in her blue dress and not in the other outfit.
And that signifies a lot, though. To me, that's that's almost like a uniform change. I felt like it was strapping away the innocence of what we saw Dolores from episode 1 and giving her the choice and the edge now of being like, this is still the same person of where I needed to go, and this is where we got to. What would be? The Wyatt? I don't know.
I would say. I was gonna say the Wyatt or
Diet.
Walrus.
Walrus.
I don't know. Walrus.
So the point is like, again, is she acting out on Ford's narrative, or is she acting out on her own?
See, that's it. All right. So we do have a plot thread we have a couple plot threads that weren't tied up.
Mm-hmm. Before, shout out to Live Together, Die Alone. He was the one that said about Dolores being white. But anyway.
Drink to him.
So we have some plot threads.
Plot threads that weren't tied up. Obviously, we don't know what happens to
Stubbs.
Stubbs and Elsie.
I'm pretty sure we say that Elsie.
Joe, I think we saw what happened to Elsie.
She's dead. She's not dead.
I don't know that I don't know.
They make it very clear that if you don't see somebody die, they're not dead. They make it very clear in this show.
I think she's dead, but okay. All right, fine.
Okay, continue.
Fine.
For example, we didn't see Sylvester die, but he's walking around. He seems fine.
We just saw them heal him up and all that because clearly Sylvester's a robot.
Was that really healing? I mean, come on. If I cut your neck and then I just because you would not be like,
and that wasn't just cauterizing. That was sealing it back up. He's clearly he is at least a
host.
A host. I mean, you saw that they did the same exact thing.
He killed people, which is funny because I thought that they would reveal to us that the entire headquarters were hosts in this episode, and they don't.
Was that Necroperv that?
Yes. What a way to bring him back!
Bring him back.
My God.
I'm not gonna lie. This episode had so much more of kind of goriness to it. Not only in blood, but then in other
nudity and stuff.
No, in nudity, but just crudeness, just in your face.
It was
implied there was going to be some implied rape with Hector.
Yeah, something like that.
The other plot thread that they kind of opened up now too is that somebody now is really controlling Maeve.
Yeah, and which makes sense if your theory is correct that Ford is the one that's been doing it all, because so now we'll probably see in season 2 how it is unleashed into headquarters. And I almost felt like, do you know how like they closed off the main part where the map is, where the main headquarters is?
Where the Mesa is,
the control room for everything.
Uh-huh.
I got a feel of like Resident Evil kind of feel, where like they closed it off to like sanction it, you know, and quarantine people.
But going into it, that part that you mentioned about
seesaw motor functions.
Joe's theory.
That'd be awesome. And Daniel just freezes.
Joe's theory, that portion right there. We have to bring it all together. I'm going to have to point out something. I mean, it's something that I guess is like more of a collective theory, like we said earlier about the whole. Okay, so Ford writes the narrative for Maeve. Of course, he did. If you're going with the theory, he did write the narrative for Maeve so that Maeve could do exactly what she did. He was not shocked or surprised when he saw Bernard.
Yeah,
he knew
true.
exactly.
He wasn't.
He knew exactly how Bernard got there because he wrote her narrative. Because remember, when they even do it, when they're looking at her thing, and Bernard tells it to her, Bernard uses the word specifically, and there was a reason why he said it, and it was like, no, it's actually, this is part of your narrative. This is a new narrative in your loop. That's what he tells her. Right there, I was like, okay, I get who did it. I get who did it. Joe's theory was right. It's all happening.
And
in
how
Mesa.
funny was that Felix, like, he stumbles upon Bernard, and he's like, he's a host?
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes, and she was like,
Oh, you idiot.
That was such a great scene, though, too. It was so comedic. He's like,
That was so good.
she was, oh, not you idiot.
And then from there, so he sees Bernard, and he's talking to him and carry on with his conversation, just like everything's fine. And then he makes sure that Dolores kills him. Ford pretty much was making that body that Ford was making inside of the of his little cabin was a theory that Joe said, which was
I've heard a lot of a theory that Joe said in this episode.
It was another Ford.
It
was another Ford, and the reason that happens is so this way, when he does get shot in front of all the board members and all this stuff, even though they're getting shot too, the reason it's the reason he's getting shot is so this way he can work with complete anonymity. There will be no one to stop him and say, "Oh my gosh, we have to stop Ford," because they all think Ford's dead. Because Ford puts this host up there to get killed by another host. So boom, that host dies by another host's hands, and then she starts shooting a bunch of the other people there.
The guests.
The other guests are the board members. So this way, he's able to clear out the board members to get exactly what he wants.
I have a couple questions though. If we could talk about Ed Harris's Man in Black.
Ooh, that shot in the arm, man.
Well, not only that, but it looked like he got his arm broken.
He did.
At that point.
Yeah. Oh,
but
armadillo justice was being handed out right there.
I thought that at first. I was like, okay, because he got himself up, and I was like, are they not even? I thought that was bad.
So are we saying that that's a different time? Like
No. But you see him hardly ever use that hand. Like he lights his cigarette.
Okay, so
he puts it down, and so like,
subtly we saw the effects of it.
Yeah, but I will say that it seemed as though. I almost didn't. The only part that I felt like I didn't like, that I didn't satisfy me, was that maybe I wanted to see the Men in Black, which again, this could happen. William, we call him William now.
Yeah, we call him.
I thought, and this will probably maybe happen in season 2. I wanted to see him almost have a brief moment of like loving Dolores again, because she reveals that she loves him and she remembered him.
I do
and
have
he
to
was like,
agree with that.
Just not at all recognizing that at all. He was so different.
The reason I say that happened is because that William is dead. That William doesn't exist anymore. That William.
Do you think that William died? When do you think that William died? When he saw Dolores for the first time he saw Dolores.
When he saw, I'm gonna pull the curtain back. It happened at the moment where he saw Maverick's friend pick up the can and hand it over.
A good friend of mine, Jay Mendoza, is playing the guy that picks up.
Oh, is really?
Yeah.
So yay, working actors.
Shout out! That was cool.
Yeah.
So he picks up the can, and when he hands it over, boom. That's where
I think
it was
that's
like. He was like, "Oh, all right, well that William's dead. I hate this one for the rest of my life."
It's so funny because Kelly and I think the first or second episode, got into an argument about who the Man in Black.
And that if he loved her.
And I was completely right. I can't wait to tell her that.
Oh my God, she's watching right now, and I know she's yelling at her.
Yeah,
but
are you
right?
right?
I hate you.
I think that you're right in the sense of saying that he once loved her, but in the Men in Black, how he is now, he doesn't necessarily love her. He like resents her and wants to, like we said before, not necessarily rape her, but induce.
He wants her to fight.
Yeah.
All he wants to do is feel something. He wants to still know that he's a human. I think he just wants them to fight, and he wants to go and have this world be his complete escape. And he even says this world feels more real than the real world.
True.
But the only difference is here they can't fight back, and that's what he wants.
He wants them to make the choice of saying yes.
Yeah,
or no.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think so.
But I just then he goes off and he's in his suit and his tuxedo, and I don't know. I just I didn't really like the way that it didn't leave me settled with how they wrapped up his character and his demeanor.
Because he gets shot.
And he kind of has a smiling face of
because
this is what I want.
Because remember when Ford comes over to him and finally calls him William in his tux, he tells him, well, you'll be very pleased with my new narrative. He tells him that. And then so when he gets shot, he's remembering that fact that Ford did tell me I'd be very
Do you think he
pleased.
really got shot though?
He
I
did. He
think that
saw
was the
blood
shot.
pop
I
out of
think,
his
yeah,
shirt,
he
which
saw-
was
and
Clementine.
He was
Yeah, it was Clementine.
And come on, and they're robots. They're pretty good sharpshooters. So she shot him in a way where it's like, okay, she could have just killed him. She wanted to.
She wanted
That
him to
shot
live.
She wanted him to live. She wanted that.
Well,
nick.
I definitely think
And
it's
I
'cause
think
it's-
I think it's because
Positive
now they
narrative.
want the host to treat the guests like they were treated. It's going to be a whole reverse hopefully in season 2.
Yeah.
We'll see.
it's
But
gonna be hardcore Wild West.
yeah.
But back to, we don't know what happened with Stubbs. Another thing that was interesting is Sizemore is the one that reveals that the whole basement is empty. The cooler is empty. But you also don't know, because he pulled Peter Abernathy for something for Charlotte. So that's also a
Yeah,
bit
so
of a cliffhanger.
Daniel's theory that they were going to take a train was going to blow up with the body.
Well,
body
he's
in it.
not on there.
He's not on it. So where is the body?
Well,
Right here.
it's right there in the fields with the rest of.
Okay.
Because
I
what
didn't
happened
see
is
Peter walk out.
I didn't see him either, though.
We didn't see Peter walk out.
Are you saying it's
Remember,
implied?
It's implied because you saw all the other people.
I
that
just
were
saw
down
the
there.
only one that was so specific.
Maeve.
Was
No.
I
I mean,
Peter.
Clementine.
Clementine.
No,
Clementine.
no, it's not- was it Clementine?
Clementine, yeah,
it was
he's right,
Clementine.
she's right.
I'm sorry, yeah.
But
It was Clementine, but we knew
but
that all
wouldn't
the
you
rest
think
of
that
them
there
were.
would be a more iconic,
I
would
agree with
step
Maverick on
out
this.
and see Peter Abernathy, because
Yeah,
I
maybe,
feel like
maybe
they
he
would,
was shooting a pizza commercial or something.
No,
that's our
listen.
boy Sylvester.
That's Sylvester.
Yeah.
No, but I think they were holding that for a cooler, a bigger reveal on season two.
I have to agree with Maverick on this. I feel like if we don't see it, it's not happening. Unless it's a reveal later on. But I think it's too big.
Well, then who took him then?
Dude, that's a great question.
But
I don't know.
I think what he's saying is that
think
we're going
he
to find out in
was-
season
Well,
2.
I think he said, listen, Teresa, her name is Tessa Thompson. Charlotte tells him, hey, get him off, get him on a train, get him back to where he needs to go.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe Sizemore did that, but just didn't go with him.
No, because Sizemore goes down cold storage and he is shocked that no one is there. The reason he's shocked that no one is there because he's actually looking for one person.
Abernathy?
Which is Abernathy. He doesn't see Abernathy, and then it's a bigger shock because no one is there.
Well, then maybe Abernathy's back in the park, but I don't necessarily think he's part of that group.
I think
Yeah.
Abernathy is part of it because he was in cold storage. She took everyone from cold storage. That's where they're all lined up there. Because, I mean, where else are all these people coming from?
I don't know.
That's
I
what
know.
I'm telling you.
I
think
just
it's all
definitely
cold
think that
storage.
there would have been more of a reveal.
But
of him.
then also
he played
you-
too much of a big character to not.
And
have them.
and the
Sure.
one thing that Ford said this narrative is, they have choices now.
Yeah.
So maybe he chose not to be with them.
Well, because maybe that was something that Bernard whispered to him. Remember in the very
Oh,
beginning?
yeah.
So there could be something that's happening where he's going to play again. We'll see season 2, which again we have to wait till 2018.
Ooh, but that is good.
That's a good
because
theory.
I have been wondering this whole time, like, what did he whisper to him? What significance did it hold? But that could be part of it. Oh my God, Maverick, you just like peel a layer off right
Well,
there.
probably because Maverick said it's not going to come true. So
Probably.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, Joe, could you say it first then?
no.
Okay, because if you did, then
It definitely would come true.
It wouldn't be funny if the writers are just like, "What's this guy saying?"
what's this guy? I'm gonna write this on a story right now.
So then we talk about like the Peter Abernathy and his role and what we think.
Slabbernaffy.
What about? I love now that we definitely understand that there are multiple timelines going on.
Oh yes.
And not only that, but that like I remember you pointed out in your book source, your book fair, you would get a complete A+ on how at one point
my book report.
he shows that that Dolores at one point is in the car and she's by herself.
Yeah.
And at first it
Car.
just cart.
In the car.
I was like, what, did I miss an episode?
Like a train car.
And she's by herself, and so you almost get this like in my head I was like it was just her like that was just a symbolism of her like zoning in and like they could have stepped out like that it was just like a her and an Arnold moment. But really what it revealed in this episode was that was like multiple times that Dolores keeps following this narrative to get back to the main.
Yeah, she repeated portions.
She had to walk through her story.
Yeah.
And that's why we see multiple Doloreses is because you see how she constantly is being drawn into this maze.
Fan question for you, Maverick, from whoever the fuck says this. Since Dolores was one of your favorite characters in the very beginning, now that you've seen her evolution, are you still in the Dolores bandwagon? And I only ask this because it blurs the line between who's good and bad in the show still.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still very much like her and her character because, yeah, you're right, it does blur the line, and now, like, she's taking it upon herself, and the acting in it and how, like, sinister she becomes, and you see her emote this kind of bad person. It's still kind of rewarding to see her as the heroine role where she is being unlocked.
So you like her now because she's not the damsel in distress anymore. She's the anti-hero.
No,
in a sense.
I think that she could still be the hero, but she's the hero of
her
herself.
own story.
Yeah, of her own story.
Daniel, question to you now.
Okay.
If from the character evolutions that we've seen throughout this series, is there any? Well, forget about characters. Let me ask you this: what's the slowest storyline for you on the show?
Truth of the matter is, I'm going to say it's Teddy. And the reason I say that is because we get to a particular point where we're like, oh man, we're going to find out so much information about Teddy. Like, oh, maybe Teddy was wanted. Maybe this, like...
I wish that was still a thing.
But all these thoughts that we kind of got to,
didn't pan out
where it was like, man, oh, this could be it. To come to a point where we get to the end of the season and none of it is there for Teddy. And ultimately, Teddy was just, hey, I'm a good-looking face once again. I'm a bullet-catching, good-looking face.
What if season 2 is set up where... Because we saw
patsy.
Well, we saw the Arnold... we saw the Arnold Ford
comparison
split like friendship split comparison kind of deal. What if we now in season 2 see that with Teddy and Dolores?
I was gonna say because as you see,
you can see he looks like
Teddy's
mortified.
Looking at Dolores and he's recognizing that he's seen this before with Bernard or Arnold, Dolores shooting him. And the fact that like he was like, why am I doing this? Like, and he's still like he's kind of fighting like his narrative and who he thinks is being a good guy. So now it goes back to the question of like, is Dolores acting on her own or is she following a narrative? And is Teddy though now reminding him? Like, I definitely think that Teddy's going to be a huge catalyst in season 2 where I could see him now like not agreeing with Dolores.
So we're like co-theory right here.
Yeah.
I like this.
And I'm Team Teddy, you're Team Dolores?
I'm Team Dolores because I like her as a character, but I like Teddy. So I always want Teddy to win.
I mean, I get that. I'm more, if anything, Team Maeve.
Oh my gosh, and her in this episode.
For me,
she is a survivor.
I don't want to say her storyline. I think personally, in this episode, for me, her storyline, like we already kind of knew where it was going, so that was the slowest part for me. Because I mean, it was cool seeing what was going to happen, but since we kind of, it's the same thing with the Man in Black and William, but like. That was way more intriguing to me. I don't know why, but the whole Maeve thing, it's been built up and it's been built up and we've seen it and we've seen it. The one thing that was cool though, when Ford is giving his speech, you see her having to make her own choice. Yeah. That's why you could tell that was the narrative he programmed.
But that was the thing. It was cool to find out that what he did, he used her as a catalyst to make all of this happen.
But this is why I don't think Elsie's dead though. is because she was such a company person, and she almost wanted these things. Because remember in the first episode, they never touch on it again, where she kisses the host.
Oh, are you thinking that Elsie's the one
later, later she kisses another.
I don't think Elsie's programming Maeve at all. I think that's all Ford. But I think Ford. I don't think Ford. Man, it's hard to say because he has sent people to kill other people in the past.
You can say it though. Just say it, and then
No, because I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Elsie.
But okay, so
maybe she's gonna rise up and she can't really rise up against Ford because technically he's dead. But I don't know. I don't fucking know.
I thought it was
that was a
interesting
cackle
though.
little laugh.
Maybe Elsie's a host.
I thought that it was interesting though that well, not necessarily interesting, but Maeve is like, I mean, she's about to leave. She's about to get out of Westworld, and then she Felix gives her the information of where her daughter is, and she's like, "Nope, it's not my daughter," and puts it away. And then you see her choose to
go back. But she's going back to an all new Westworld now, where she wanted this to happen to begin with.
My thing is, Ford was so smart to anticipate so many things, as far as to anticipate Felix, who isn't a host, even though Sylvester maybe.
So we're led to believe.
Well, so we're led to believe.
Definitely be. I could see that being a change in.
But Sylvester being, let's say, Sylvester is having this non-host work with the host, and yet still plotting out what they're gonna do. That's gonna help Maeve make her choices and make her change, and then still plotting out the idea that he would pass her that letter telling her where the daughter is, so that she ultimately, in her narrative, would still react the way she did and make the choice to get off that train. It's like, that's very interesting, because there are plenty of variables where it can be just as simple as, okay, even though they say this, he can get to a point where he's like, I'm not going to help her anymore. Or, yeah, I just didn't find that information. Okay, I don't know.
But she can tell when people are, she can tell when Sylvester's lying.
Yeah, true.
But she can tell when people are lying.
Yeah, but it's interesting how Ford had that also planned out in her narrative. And that's like, this man thinks ahead of time for everything.
And you know what's funny is, it could be the same reason why what we see Ford in last week's episode tell Bernard about, he's like, why didn't you just stop me? You had a back door this whole time. And he goes, well, I suppose I wanted to see if you had full knowledge. What would you choose? What would you choose? And then he kind of does the same thing to Dolores in this episode when he's sitting her down and talking to her and bringing her back. And he kind of like knows what journey she's been on. And like, and he goes, so now I'm asking you, why do you think this is? And like, who like, what are those thoughts?
What voice do you hear?
But that's my whole point. And the reason why I said a while ago that Ford was doing this to kind of, he wasn't against Arnold per se, but he was like doing this to unlock them because of those scenes. Exactly. He learned so much from creating Bernard and seeing the choices that Bernard was going to make until he was ready to go public for his new narrative, which is like, you know what? They're all gonna have choices now. I think this was all a test for that. It was all a big giant test.
His new narrative is, like he said it also, the creation of new people or something of that nature. He said like a new race of people. Essentially what he's saying is, all of them will be conscious. And so I've made a new being. I made new people. And have at it. That's exactly what he just did, and it was just like.
But see, I think obviously he learned all that from Bernard, from when he made Bernard. I think that was like the big thing, and I don't think he never held any malice against Bernard. It was always him trying to make Bernard make his own decisions.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And Bernard, obviously, we're sympathetic towards him because we knew that he was a host, and he's kind of like a protagonist character for a lot of the. Even now, he still is a protagonist. He's the one person I can say on this show that hasn't really flipped from being like questionable gray area, bad guy, good guy.
Yeah.
True.
I think that with that being said, now it's like, because Ford was always gray area. Did you get a little text message?
Yeah.
Arby's? Were we talking about Arby's?
Yeah. The Arby's, how they do. Did you see it already? Mm-hmm. Arby's did something so quick. Like, okay.
Jasmine messaged me on Facebook about it, and she like tagged me in it. And then I wrote, because she hasn't watched the show, I wrote, It doesn't look like anything to me. And she was like, no, but I think this is about Westworld. I was like, dude, I know
Doesn't look anything to me. I don't.
Wait, what is it?
So Arby's put out this whole thing where they have the maze all drawn out in ketchup. And just in the center of the maze is like a ketchup packet. Arby's, lately, as of the last year?
They have great promotion, terrible food.
Yeah, like the food is probably
really
the
good
worst
fries,
thing ever for me, in my opinion. But they have this whole thing.
You ever want to clean out your system? Eat Arby's.
Their advertising
Flush
campaign.
your system out.
Their advertising campaign is amazing. They're so right on the cusp when it comes to
Yeah, I'm really curious about Arby's promotional people. They must be like, you
they
know,
were trolling
let these
us.
20-year-old kids do whatever they want. We're
Seriously.
Arby's. And they're like, they did Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
They did Westworld. I think I saw, there's been a ton of geek
Oh, they've
related.
done more than one Westworld thing, too.
Have they?
That's the crazy thing about it.
I love their promotion. I just don't like their food.
Oh,
if their
God.
food was better, I'd be all about Arby's right now.
That's true.
I mean, how many shitty roast beef sandwiches can one guy eat? I have another question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of shitty roast beef, we talked about it for a moment, but the necro perv,
The
the
necro.
whole scene,
I
dude,
didn't
it
like
made
that
me
reference, that
cringe.
segue.
I'm sorry. That's why I
gross.
did it.
Yeah, I just
Exactly. That's why I did it. I wanted it to feel as gross as that scene.
That's what I was saying. This episode was so like.
It was so dirty, man. It was, because he was like, "Oh, I'm not worried about your butt. I'm worried about his." I was like, haven't you learned yet? Like,
I thought
how
when
did
you
he
were
not
going
learn?
with the talking about like meat, like when she bit the finger and kept it in her
Oh, and then
mouth.
that
Well,
one too.
I was gonna
the
go
whole
into it,
time
that
it
whole
was like
scene.
he kept putting his finger in there, and I was like, waiting.
knew it was gonna happen,
I knew
yeah.
it. I was like, come on, just do it already. Stop playing around. Oh man.
So Maverick, I asked Daniel this. Flip it on you. What's the slowest storyline for you?
I was in agreement with him with Teddy. I thought that Teddy's reveal.
I don't mean in this
was
episode. I just mean overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do because you see all the other characters go through this evolution a little bit more faster than Teddy. Like it's not until episode 9 that you see before you get Teddy finally gets his backstory from being Wyatt, like we think, and that's like the most. But he's also just playing a narrative, so you don't see Teddy going out of his
Comfort
loop
zone is loop. Yeah.
until 9, where he finally recognizes the Men in Black.
Yeah.
And so that took all the way up to 9 for us to see Teddy have any type of breakthrough, not performance, but out of his loop.
Like I said, I agree with you. I think Teddy, it's going to be the Teddy versus Dolores
Oh, that's
thing.
going to be
Civil War we're going to see.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm down to see it. I think Maeve is just going to be on her search for her daughter.
But see, that's interesting too, because that's like inserting Maeve back into the park after all this has happened. Where does Maeve stand? Obviously, she wants to make her own choices.
Right.
I think for sure she's going to be Team Dolores on this. But if we're taking sides here,
Right.
like I really don't see a lot of people going on Teddy's side. Yeah, I don't even know if it's necessarily. No. Here's the thing, though. It's not really taking sides. It's really making good choices and bad choices.
Well, because Teddy, in that case, I'm going to go with sides and say Teddy would be company man. Well, or board man.
I think more so
hey,
Teddy.
Guys, we shouldn't have. Let's not kill people, guys.
No, I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more so. The thing is, I think it's almost like when you cage an animal and you want to let it out, but you don't know how that animal can react one out of two ways. It's either going to bite you,
right,
or it's going to be obedient.
Right.
And it's going to do it's the same thing. It's same thing with jails, you know what I mean?
We also see that Teddy's fully capable of an armadillo justice. And when he attacks
he shoots down MIB earlier.
But that's a revenge case. I mean, I don't think Teddy's the kind of character that's randomly going to kill somebody.
No, but
except
he
when
mows down the entire
There you go.
fleet.
That was
He did, but there was also that one scene. But see, that's true. But there's also that one scene, and I think this was kind of laying the groundwork for where Teddy's situation is going to lie.
Yeah.
Is when the guy bumps him.
Oh, and he shoots him.
But he hesitates before he like pulls out his gun,
Right.
and then he just goes boom, 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 shoots him.
Man.
Normal Teddy would not do that.
Normal
see
Teddy
what I'm
wouldn't
saying?
have went for the gun.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe he would have went for the gun, but not done anything.
Because they,
Okay.
and every time that Teddy is introduced into Westworld, into Sweetwater, he always bumps that guy. Always.
Yeah.
Always,
And they
yeah.
turn,
That's
and
my-
the
yeah,
guy
that's my point.
goes to show off his gun, and Teddy is always just like, and then they both like kind of like
Yeah, well,
tap their head, and then they go away.
Yeah.
And this time they look at each other, and the guy goes to reach for his gun, and Teddy immediately shoots.
Right. That's why I think that it's going to be such a struggle with him, because he obviously knew when Dolores was going up there to at the end of the show to assassinate Ford. Essentially, you knew that Teddy was struggling with what he had just heard and that decision that she was going to make. And I think that's why I still like Teddy, and I think he's such an interesting character to me, is because we're going to get to see either the downfall of the hero archetype, or we're going to see the hero be the hero archetype in this world, because he could be protecting guests. Like, he could be a host that's going to start protecting them now because he doesn't agree with, you know what I mean? It's almost like X-Men, where if the mutants have been oppressed so long, and humans were able to like do whatever they wanted. Now we're living in a world where the mutants are in control. Age of Apocalypse is what we're living in now.
Are you thinking like Dolores
characters
would be Magneto, and then Teddy would be
Professor?
Sorry.
No, I think we're more so. I think now it's like the Age of Apocalypse storyline, more so where we saw like a character like Magneto, who was always a lifelong villain, kind of like go to the side of like, well, this is wrong. I kind of am more for this experience. I don't think Teddy necessarily wants to kill anybody. Yeah, no. Unless you cross him. I think that's guests and hosts included. Unless he feels threatened, and I think that's guests and hosts included. I think with Dolores' new narrative, it's almost like she was kind of like, you know what, screw this, like. This is our place now. Okay. So she's ascended to this Iron Throne essentially, whereas Teddy is kind of like, I don't necessarily agree with this. That's the vibe I got from it.
Iron Throne. I saw a little bit of a Red Wedding. I know that much.
Last week.
Daniel did. Oh, last week. This week, man. Come on. The ceremony's happening. Hey, everyone, we're all feeling great.
You were right about one thing. He was right about one thing.
And he gets cut.
You get a point.
Shot. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, I get a point for that. I get a point for that.
Yeah,
also,
he was the first to say that William was the man.
No, he was not.
Yes, he was.
No.
We were at the meltdown, and he said it at the bookstore, and I
said it at the second episode, and she was like, "Nope."
And you were like, "Other people think of this theory," and I was like, "Me."
Yeah. Really? Is that what happened? Yeah. I'm gonna go rewatch that.
You should. And then Thanks. You'll see, oh man, Daniel was right. But anyway.
But that's not what
the Red Wedding thing did happen, where everyone was just getting mowed down at the very end of the episode. We already kind of dropped my theory about the whole Ford body switching thing. But my question when it came to Maeve, real quick, with Maeve making the choice to get off the train, is that free will? Or is that or is it?
I think Maeve had a choice, and I think she chose to go back to go for her daughter.
Which would make the most sense, because we always see Maeve having these moments like that where she's the first one to show human-like characteristics that the Man in Black sees, and he's like, "That's when the maze was revealed to me." And he was like, that was the moment that I saw it. Like, this host did not want to die. Like, I shot her. She was trying to save her child. And then her also, that this was her cornerstone, how she would try anything to override it, and she couldn't be put down. And then now, again, you're seeing her make this choice to get off the train. I just think that you always see that with Maeve. And so
I think we've seen a good evolution of her character from being the owner of a brothel, essentially, and I've said essentially like 3 times. I feel like I'm you now. I think that we've seen a good evolution of her character. One thing though about the Man in Black William, is that we've obviously always seen his storyline, and for the majority of his storyline, he was a good guy. Yeah. This is only the real episode 9 and this episode were the only 2 that we really see that downside. I don't feel like because they explain it really well in this episode, how his arc kind of turned. But do you think they did that intentionally? Because if, let's say that happens earlier in episode 5, then it's like, well, obviously we all know that.
We all knew. Yeah, that was the whole point. We had to hold it back to this moment, because when we get to show his change, it also kind of matched up where he shanks her.
Well, do you ever think we're going to see, because we have to assume that they cast an actress that was going to play his wife. So we have to see her at some point.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see Juliet go off.
Well, she's dead currently in the current storyline.
But we're going to have a flashback where we get to talk about somebody.
And do you ever think we'll see off-world stuff in Westworld?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, besides the base or the headquarters, do you think we'll ever see any off-world stuff?
Like what's
And
going
is
on?
that going to be a mind trip?
Away from there.
Away from the headquarters.
Off-world, that sounds interesting.
I know, right?
What are you saying? Are you saying...
Well, I didn't
saying
even play
Mars?
that. You know what I meant. Off Westworld stuff. I think it is Mars, though.
I think it's interesting too, like, because then it would kind of interest. Like, that's not a huge storyline, but like how Logan and apparently
That's what I was
his
just gonna
dad,
say, yeah.
Like his Logan runs off into the I'm guessing
Buck ass
dies.
naked.
Yeah.
He was naked, mother.
Maybe.
Naked, Mom. Okay.
Maybe that's where William was like, I think that
And then
your
you'd have
dad
to-
needs someone more with stability
And you'd have to get an
Yeah.
actor that's going to be age appropriate to Ed Harris's character.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we don't know the fate of Logan. That's one character we don't know his fate.
don't know.
We don't know if he ever comes
I
back to
really
Westworld.
thought he was just going to kill him and be like, yeah, it was weird. It happened all at the park. I really thought that's what was going to happen.
The
I was
one
like,
thing though that
kill him, Will, kill him.
The one thing that I found a little cheesy though was like that scene where he's talking to Logan. And it's like, well, here's my evil plan.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like
exactly. I was like,
it was very mustache twirling villain.
This is what I'm gonna do.
Here's my evil plan. You're not gonna run the company, saying
Exactly.
Like,
I really thought he was gonna okay, you've told him all this, so you're gonna kill him, right?
That's what
and
I
you're
thought,
gonna
too.
go full on Man in Black, but nope, he's still trying to wear the white hat, and I want to hit the horse and watch it run. Stupid. I was upset with that part.
Why are you looking at me?
Honestly,
I don't know. I forgot. My train of thought.
honestly, there was so much in this episode, but I think we covered every bit of what happened in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
We even got to mention some of the comments for last week's episode. Things that what are we expecting to see?
You know what we should do for an episode 2 is just address people's comments.
I think maybe we'll have one more episode where we can do that.
It sounds like we are going to also be doing something special with doing
Oh,
a season
yeah.
wrap up,
A season wrap up.
as well as watching the movie, so we can be at your level, know what all that's going
Exactly, right? It wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad. I think we should do that. But what are we looking forward to with season 2? Big.
Well, we
plot,
didn't even mention the
big plot.
samurais.
Oh, that's right. SW.
could be
You
in
guys
season
notice that?
2.
That's why it was like. That's why I was asking. 'Cause
I
was
love
saying,
that Felix
that's what I
also,
was
he's
talking about.
like, she goes, what is this level? Or what is this? And he's like,
It's complicated.
it's complicated.
It's complicated.
I think he's my favorite character, and he's just like, that's the best.
It is indeed
And then
complicated.
I remember him asking Maeve if she's going to be okay. And she's like, you've got to be the worst human ever. She's like, but I mean that in a good
But I
way.
mean, in a good way.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't get to see our special AI friend. If so, they didn't.
Oh,
name him.
Aiden.
They didn't get to name him. or
Yeah,
show
we didn't
him.
see. Well,
Because they said
Aiden, I
he
guess,
was
could have been the
supposed to
guy that was in the headquarters when all this shit was going down.
Which
He
one
could have been
was that?
the one guy that's like, we have a problem.
I don't know, but
See salt motor functions.
They said Aiden was there, but I didn't see him.
He's
at
in the
all.
IMDb page. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the Westworld movie. We're going to be talking about questions and comments, cool theories that you guys had that actually panned out, not
Yes.
like my bullshit theories, because
Please.
it was just throwing spaghetti against walls, guys.
So many.
Yeah, but it's been fun. It's been 10 weeks. We've had different cast members from this show.
Oh, yeah,
We've
huh?
rotated a little bit.
Yeah. But no predictions. So I know we covered him last week.
Oh, yeah,
So
predictions for
still-
season 2. I'll let you go first, because mine are probably even better.
Sorry, what?
I'm just kidding.
I was just funny because
Okay.
I was like, gonna just let it go, and then something in my head was like, nope. I think I'm still on the train that something with Stubbs is going to be the climactic side for humans.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good theory.
Yeah, I don't know that he. Just because I think he was too much of a strong character.
And he's
Not
still in the
seeing-
park.
Yeah, he's still in the park. He's just too much of a strong character to not have an ending in the way that we would want it.
I was wrong. Maybe you are going to have a better theory than I am. That's a good one.
But I do think that we're going to see like this weird Resident Evil Walking Dead kind of thing where the hosts are now like running amok amongst the Westworld inside of headquarters.
But that's what you want to see, though? Because we're not doing like predictions necessarily. We're just doing
I
what we
thought it
want to
was-
see, right?
Oh, I thought we were doing predictions. Well, I mean, definitely I want to see Stubbs return and do something different. I also, I mean, yeah, I want to see Teddy like kind of go off on this, what we think that's happening with him as he's watching Dolores go approach to kill Ford. You feel it in him that he's just like, I don't agree with this. Why
Yeah.
is this happening? So
I
I'd
got
like
that
to
vibe.
see where that goes. And for
I'd like to see who the fuck the Minotaur was. Because I don't know what the hell that thing was.
Yeah.
It's dead now, apparently.
It's dead now, yeah. I would like to see some reveal there, some resolution. I would like to see this all come, like how you were saying, the Teddy Dolores things. To me, that storyline, I think Dolores in general is probably the most interesting character for sure. But I think that so many ripple effects that are going to happen around her are like, is she going to remember Peter Abernathy when she sees him again and be like, well, you were my dad. Or is she going to be like, no, I don't know who this guy is. Or are we going to see the rise up of Teddy being that badass good guy? There's so many things that need to be answered. And the Man in Black is in there, and he's in the park that he's always wanted now.
Yes.
So I want to see what he does and kind of like where he lies, because it's weird. I would originally, on one of the first, I said I don't think he's necessarily the bad guy. I can't even say he's necessarily a good guy.
No,
I just don't know where. He's just a guy in the park that has very selfish needs. But in the same time, he was really trying to unlock he was trying to do a good thing, I guess, by unlocking all of them.
Right.
So it's very, I'm so split with him. I just, those are just things I want to see. I want to see the samurais again too.
Well, I want to see more worlds. We saw Samurai World. I want to see Roman World. I want to see Tomorrow World. I want to see a few different worlds.
Which
Just
we'll
introduce
figure
us
out
into
by
something.
watching the movie or reading the book.
Do you really think that
There
we're?
was a sequel. There was a sequel that.
Okay.
did
Do you really think it
Tomorrow.
won't get convoluted though if we go?
Well, they introduced Samurai World. Out of all the worlds, that's very interesting that they chose to introduce that twist.
Yeah.
Because we know, like, if you've seen the film, you know there's a Roman world.
But if you had to guess of what you thought that you would see, what would you have said based?
I would have thought maybe either Roman world or
Like medieval
it was going
world?
to be medieval world, like right across.
So you're saying
the
this is
sea,
a really weird choice that?
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is very interesting. So I love the fact that it was there. I want to see more of that Samurai World.
Dude,
I
I
have a
just
question
saw
though.
Spirited Away by Miyazaki. That movie's dope.
Let's
So
bring
good.
it in. Bring it in. I have a question. Now that we know like what Ford's intentions were, we have a backstory, and that those doors seemingly seem closed for us, or were answered in this. One of my friends, I was talking to him about Westworld, and he asked me a question that I actually I didn't really think I could answer, which was he said, what is the point of Westworld? Like, why was it made? If it was just for the host, like, why let people in? Obviously, maybe it was because we were letting people in to get money to back the idea of keep building Westworld. But in the end, like, what was the point? Is it a godlike complex? Is it like someone just trying to create a world?
I think for me personally,
like, why did Ford and Arnold set out to build these people?
I think they did it. I think they did it to show the what technology could be, and to use it as an escape for humans, or I guess humans, in order to get away from their real life situation, or maybe we don't know what happened on real life Earth. Like if it's a
we don't know
terrible
what's going on
war and
now.
torn, we don't know. So maybe they come here as an escape. Obviously, it's expensive. It's not cheap. It's $40,000, but I think maybe it was created for that. Now. And it's a game. Like, it's the same reason why all these people do escape rooms. Mm-hmm. Like, why do I want to put myself in a situation with a zombie sitting in a chair and I got to fit out 15 puzzles with idiots? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's why do we do these things? For escape, to let our minds wander and to play out our fantasies. And in Westworld, you can be anybody you wanted to be. You didn't have to be Myverick. You could be Janet.
Which makes sense for why Charlotte, the board, people like that, why there was interest in Westworld. But it doesn't really answer to me what Ford's purpose, what Arnold's purpose was.
I feel that originally it was a good-natured ideal of, hey, I want to be like
a utopia?
Disney. No, I want to be like Disney. I want to make a theme park that people are going to love with these robots and have like the ultimate experience of being in a Western blah blah. You know, like how they pitch it. It's, we've got the vacation for you. That was the phrase.
For all you adventurers.
That's what they said on that's this in the film. We've got the vacation for you. That's what they wanted to do. But as they started to build and they started to get to the question of consciousness and things of that nature, it became something completely different. Yeah. And they just needed backing to continue doing what they wanted to do.
I definitely think that Charlie, who was apparently a real life thing to Arnold, and then Ford used it for Bernard, was a catalyst too for Arnold wanting his death, and they talk about it in this episode.
They do.
Was why Arnold again started to say that he wanted to have people to make their have the host become conscious.
Well, I mean, same reason why Ford made his whole family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, Arnold made it.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, but
so I was just curious what you guys thought, because I couldn't think of it. I was like, I couldn't think of another reason what the point was for making them.
I think, like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I feel like that was the whole thing. It was a good intention when they first created it, but then after that, they stumbled on more and more and more. It got larger and larger, and they wanted to continue with what they found. And they wanted to do it undisturbed, but yet still make sure they had backing. Is
there a reason? First of all, is it official that Westworld is coming back in 2018? Is that official?
It's official.
And is it the whole cast coming back, or is that the reason why they're doing it?
No, we don't know.
My guess would have to be, because that's a massive casting to keep.
And you think about all.
And you're gonna keep Anthony Hopkins for a whole season. You got to keep Ed Harris for a whole season. You got to keep James Marsden for a whole season. Evan Rachel Wood. That's
a lot of money.
That's a quarter of the budget had to go to them.
Yeah.
I'm interested. All right, so it's 2018. Do you think Westworld's going to lose steam by 2018, or do you think the anticipation's going to build?
I would be nervous about that. I was thinking about that.
I would too, and I'm wondering what they're going to do. But then again, you know what?
You also have all this online stuff that you can consume.
I was going to say, they have a very smart marketing campaign and the team that they have pushed out, and they're going to do the same thing they did for Lost, to keep you entertained the entire time.
Mr. Robot's doing that now too.
Mr. Robot. Okay, but
it's one of the best shows that does it.
The end of the season.
Season
really
2,
pissed
I
off
hear.
a lot of people because of what happened in season 2.
Well, tell them, tell everybody about like the emails if you're a part of it.
If you guys are registered with it right now, as far as Delos is concerned, you're gonna get an email like you always do. This time when you get the email, pay attention to what you're reading and look for the bold words. You're gonna see something very cool. Check the encryption and then use those letters, because you're gonna see something very amazing. It's so good.
Which is maybe how they keep us entertained until 2018.
So, I mean, that's how they're going to keep you entertained during the whole summer. The way they did this, they did
whole summer? You mean the whole year?
The whole year. The way they did breadcrumbs.
Hopefully it feels like
there's going to be a Comic-Con Westworld panel, guarantee you.
They are, and I think there's probably going to be a Westworld experience.
For sure. Oh, that would be so sick. A VR. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And then, remember, like with Lost, what they did, they actually shot stuff. Where you were trying to find Rachel or whatever her name was, and you were finding the whole Hanzo whole situation.
Hanzo Corporation.
And who's that girl and all these things. Same thing. You're going to do the same thing here. They're going to do it. But besides that, we've gone over everything. I think now's the time we got to say goodbye.
I'm going to talk real quick. I just sent you a thing.
Yeah, I was trying to look at it.
Oh, that was what went off in my pocket.
The actor, who's this? Nick Ballard?
That's the guy who played Aiden.
Nick Ballard. Where was he at?
Yeah, right.
I would have recognized that face. Just kidding.
It's a strapping young man.
I don't remember seeing him.
Oh.
I was digging around trying to find that.
I don't remember seeing him either, to be honest with you.
I think they cut him off. They cut a scene.
They may have, because I don't remember him either.
All right, so let's just start the wrap out over again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I ruined that.
Okay.
So I think that's how they're going to keep us going for the entire year, just like they did with the whole Hanzo Foundation and all these mini stories. They're going to do the same thing.
And they're probably going to have a Comic-Con thing, so Maverick, you can play out your fantasy and be a villain for a change.
The Westworld experience.
Is that what you mean?
No, I meant villain.
Because, I mean, hey, that's what Dolores is now. She's Wyatt.
Get touch my Mississippi roots.
Oh, that would be nice. That'd be nice. Hey, y'all, she's naked.
She's naked, Mom.
Yeah, right?
I think one of the biggest things that I think we'll agree on that would be best for us, for you, is that when we do our season wrap-up, especially in our comments in this one, is to tell us like what your wrap-up theories were, what you think is going to come out in season 2, and that would also just help us to make this more conversational. Now we're going to
I would like to hear the same question I posed to the two of them. What was your slowest storyline for you in Westworld? Who is your favorite character, and who is your least favorite character?
Yeah, that would be great to hear. I would love to know that from every person watching. Just load us up in the comments, because next episode we'll be talking to you guys about what you wrote. So that would be good. And with that being said, make sure to subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and keep the conversation going with the hashtag Bullets and Milk. At that hashtag show. I said milk. I didn't say milk. Right.
Whatever. It's
Yeah,
Milk.
whatever.
M-I-L-K.
I'm Daniel.
I'm Maverick.
And I am Joe.
Bang, bang, go, go.
You got a funny face.